Thank you, Madam. Good afternoon, Madam President. Madam President, I rise to discuss the matter at hand today, which is a debate and ultimately a decision over essentially refinancing our pension obligations as a state. So to first understand what we're debating today, I think it's important we have to understand how we got here. And in 1928, we decided that a good way to attract folks to work for this state was to offer pensions. And it used to be that folks who worked for the state and for municipalities, and I think it still is today, there was just a level of appreciation from the community for people that held these positions. And that was a huge part of it. They also believed that these pensions would be sufficient for their retirement. And I think it goes without saying that all of us in this circle have a tremendous amount of respect for our state employees, for folks that get up every day and work to make this state better. And it's something that we all have a great amount of appreciation and respect for folks that helped us build this state. One of the issues, however, is that since 1928, the economy has changed. There's been new forms of retirement tools and mechanisms. And today, if you look at the amount of pensions that are still out there as a means of recruiting new employees, it's very rare that you see someone getting offered a pension. Today, many young people, I'm 28 years old, many young people across the state and across the country don't expect to have any pensions. They don't expect to have Social Security when we retire. We don't quite honestly expect to have any support from government for retirement. It's just very unlikely, and I think a lot of folks my age that are getting into the workforce or younger people leaving college getting into the workforce see the world a lot differently now. And we should be considering ways to make it so that people that are getting a job as a state employee for the first time are getting a 401k so that they can look at and review their retirement plan every week, just like everyone else in the workforce, in the private workforce. I think that would add to our retirement security. And today, instead of looking at 401ks, instead of looking at ways to ask state employees to add to the chance that they're going to be able to collect a pension by contributing more to their retirement, instead of doing those things, we are essentially refinancing our debt that is owed, $6 billion, for $22.4 billion more from 2032 to 2047. Now, I know that for some of you, that's so far down the road it doesn't matter, but it matters a whole lot to young people in this state, because that's a hurdle that we're going to have to cross and that we're going to have see our children and grandchildren cross. That's a very concerning number, 22.4 billion more. So we're kicking the can down the road. What we really ought to do, as I mentioned before, is find ways to reform our pensions, our benefits with state employees. Now, as an employer myself, one thing we look for when we are recruiting new people to work for our business is what's market rate for a job, a CFO? What's market rate for a CFO? What's market rate for a marketing director? And that's how we're able to come up with a price and a 401k strategy for that employee. I think that now we have to be looking at what's market rate for municipalities, for state employees across the country. And if you look at what's happening across the country, we actually have the lowest level of state employee required contributions out of any state. Right now, 25% of our state employees don't contribute to their pension. And the ones that do can contribute as little as 2% to their overall pension. That's the lowest in the nation. As a result, we have the greatest amount of unfunded liabilities. If we increase that to 6 or 8%, we would see solvency in our pension plan. Also, we have COLAs, approximately 3%. That is very high. Cost of living adjustments at that level are unreasonable in this day and age. Not many people get a 3% raise year after year. Also, another area we can find a tremendous amount of savings is in overtime and travel reimbursement, which we budgeted for over $200 million for. I've gone around the district, talked to state employees about this, and oftentimes they'll say to me, you know, I feel guilty almost about the health and copay benefits that they receive, almost embarrassed by it, and they're actually suggesting to me that they'd be willing to contribute more to the fund, to the pot, so that they can guarantee that there's something there for the future. And I think that there is a willingness from state employees to contribute more, to adjust the COLAs, to change longevity and overtime pay. And I think they want to do that because they want the retirement security in the end. Another area of concern that I think has been raised through this discussion has to do with the return on our capital. Now, I think it was last week the Wall Street Journal announced that Dow Jones hit a record 20,000 points. It's a record for the Dow, and in the past 8 years, the S&P 500 had an annualized return of 16%. The state's capital saw an annual return of 2%. So we have to get a better understanding of why we missed that boat. How could we have missed the opportunity to see those returns from the state treasurer's office? We need to dive into that a little more. But ultimately, I think that we've missed the mark here on this opportunity to really and truly reform pensions. And businesses are paying very close attention to this because they see this $22.4 billion more that we've contracted for. And the CFOs and boards of directors are looking at these numbers and they're saying eventually we're going to have to pay for that because government is not a business. It doesn't produce anything. It is simply here to allow commerce to flourish and to protect the people of Connecticut. But this is a hole that businesses, especially big ones, are very concerned about. Now, just across the street in Rhode Island, we are seeing pension reform. We are seeing real policy changes that are acting as a magnet for new businesses. Governor Raimondo is making those efforts clear, making it known that she has the backbone and the courage to make the right decisions. And that's the kind of leadership that we need. It's very simple. This decision can accelerate more problems for our state. But if we were to just change the course, put Connecticut on the right track by making these more challenging decisions, we would see more businesses stay. We'd see more people trust and have confidence in their own retirement plans, and ultimately, it would be better for the state. That's why, Madam President, I will be voting against this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Martin.